I used to think the end of summer felt safe, a slow exhale after long days. But it's a door you only notice when it swings back and hits you. The cicadas don't stop. They dim, like someone turning down a dial. Sunscreen and algae cling to your skin, sweet turning sour, while bonfire smoke sits heavy in the humid air and won't wash out of your hair. Right there, between seasons, things step closer. You'll never look at Labor Day weekend the same way again. I'm not here to scare you with campfire lies. I'm going to tell you 3 things that happened to me. The way I remember them, the way they still echo when I'm alone, each one gets stranger. Each one taught me to ignore the calendar. And the last one? Yeah, that's the one that still follows me home. Starts at a lake, after whistles go quiet. The last Sunday at Pine Hollow Lake felt like a postcard left on a windowsill too long. Parents folded sandy chairs, kids dragged wet towels, and the air tasted like sunscreen, algae, and bonfire smoke. Cicadas dimmed as if someone turned down a dial. I told myself this was peace. It wasn't. It was a door. Closing meant pulling buoys, rolling flags, checking the diving platform before the gate got chained. Manny tapped my tower. "You want me to hang?" "I got it," I said. He waved like you wave at a whole season and drove off between pines. The water swallowed his engine. That's the thing about this lake. Even noise comes here to drown. I slid the aluminum rowboat off its hook and pushed into bruised glass. The float line tugged against my palms, slimy with months of touch. My whistle thumped my sternum with each breath. One by one, I unclipped the red and white buoys. The sun smeared a copper stripe across the water. Everything felt held. Sound, wind, me. Like the lake wanted the day to end on its terms. 3 whistle blasts cracked behind me. Short, sharp, perfect. The emergency signal. I spun, scanning for a head. Nothing, just the platform, a dark square against the glare, and flat water beyond it that looked like a door. Trainee said acknowledge, so I blew 3 back. They ricocheted off the tree line and came home thinner. A beat later, 3 more answered with my exact rhythm, as if the lake had memorized my mouth. Fast for the platform, oarlocks gnashing. Logic tried to leash me. Prank Manny, some idiot under the deck, but the water didn't ripple right. It seemed to settle deeper as I cut it. I tied to the ladder, slid into the cold, and ducked under. Green-black closed over me. I swept a hand along the underside for nylon or weeds. That's when it found my ankle. It's not a snag. I know rope burn and eel-slick plants. This was colder than the lake, smooth and deliberate, curling just above the bone. It tightened once, like a question. I kicked heel-clanging wood. It tightened to an answer. I became an animal, knee-slamming ladder, a screw-biting skin, hands hauling me up until the water broke from my shoulders. When my foot cleared the surface, the pressure didn't release so much as unmake itself. I sprawled on the deck, gulping air. Blood purled on my shin and ran in a thread between the slats. I grabbed for my whistle. It popped out of wet fingers, bounced once, and slipped between boards with a tiny metallic goodbye. A heartbeat later, 3 blasts rose from beneath the deck. So close the wood hummed. Training wanted me to answer. Another voice, the one that counts submerged seconds, said, "No, sure." Now, I rowed hard until the bow grated sand. The beach had that in-dove-day stillness. Abandoned castles, bottle caps, damp footprints, smearing into nothing. At the tide line, just right of my stand, 2 fresh knee impressions pressed deep into wet sand. Parallel as if someone had knelt and leaned toward the water. No footprints leading away. It's just the scooped knees facing the lake into smooth drag lines vanishing into black. I locked up with shaking hands and told myself a rule I didn't know I knew. Do not answer whistles after dark. I went home, showered, and still carried the lake rot in my nose. At dawn, I stopped by alone to turn in my key. Locker door stuck, then finally gave. My whistle sat on my hoodie, same silver. Mouthpiece chewed, wet enough to stain cotton, stank of algae. A crescent of silt lay in the thumb hollow. I left it there. Water answered me. Other places would. Some whisper, some count. It's wild how familiar places turn on you the second the season flips. After the lake's black hush, I craved noise, friends, laughter, a bonfire crackling against rows that whisper when the wind moves. Corn at night listens. The louder we got, the more the field seemed to lean in, close and patient, counting breaths between our jokes. If the lake learned to answer me back, the cornfield learned to count. We wanted noise after the lake's hush. Friend had keys to Miller's corn maze, so we dragged pallets and lit a farewell fire. Stalk stood 12 feet, tassels combing stars, rose whispering like gossip. Someone cranked a speaker, bottles clinked. Moths battered our lights. I felt better with people. That's the lie crowds tell, the lake answered me. The cornfield learned to count. Jess worked weekends here. She cracked the side gate and swore the owner wouldn't care if we packed our trash. Diesel ghosted from tractors. Every breeze made the field hiss like a million paper cuts. I wandered into the first alley and saw the moon slice into stripes. At ankle height, twine brushed my shin. Look low. It was tied stalk to stalk, fresh, cheap, not farm twine. My light found crisp, recent cuts beyond the main path, tight right-angle corridors and little square rooms walled in high. The severed stalks bled white. Twine ran low across openings like invisible shoelaces, vibrating when I plucked it as if it traveled deeper. Of course, someone yelled, "Hide and seek!" The way people dare ghosts to prove they don't believe. Jess set rules. No past the third intersection, no phones. 30 count. We scattered. Corn leaves slapped my arms. I cut through one of the new rooms and stepped over twine. Somewhere behind me, counting started, soft, steady, too close. 1, 2, D. It wasn't Jess out there. Came from the wrong side, in the tight cuts where the corn made its own throat. I told myself it was Cole until I found his jacket ahead, folded like a breadcrumb on the dirt. Cole. Silence. 5, 6, 7. My light brushed another offering, Bree's wallet open, cash untouched, her ID looking up. Bree, the counting paused, as if nodding at our names. 8, 9. The twine I'd stepped over now sat at knee height, snagging my jeans. I didn't hear footsteps. I heard the corn breathe, steady as lungs. 10, 11, 12. Whoever was counting wasn't playing. They were moving the pieces, and we were the pieces. I edged along the twine instead of through it and saw where it led. A new cut ending in a dead stop in a shape that shouldn't have been there. Milk crates lashed into a shoulder-high platform plywood, on top towels draped to muffle creaks. From up there you could see over the tassels. Curiosity beat fear for 1 second. I climbed 2 rungs. Through a slit in the leaves, our cars gleamed. Another slit framed the fire, zoomed on faces. At the base sat a half-buried tote. Inside was a nest of other people's lives. Student IDs, county wristbands, house keys with novelty tags, and Polaroids from fairs and games, classmates smiling straight into lenses they didn't know were watching. Dates in Sharpie ran from last fall to last week. I didn't shout. I didn't want whoever built this to know I'd seen their perch. I climbed down, back toward the fire, and collided with Jess and Bree, faces pale. "Someone's counting," Bree whispered.
Not us.
We grabbed Cole, jacket recovered, wallet pocketed, and hustled for the gate. The counting followed at a whisper, never breaking the corn line, as if the plants themselves kept score. Leaves ticked our ears. We hustled to the cars with a hunted feeling passing lit windows. No one stepped out, no footsteps. Just a rustle that matched us and stopped when we stopped. We didn't tell Miller. Maybe we didn't want it hardening into police reports. That night, a photo hit our group chat. Our bonfire, shot from behind us in the dark rose. Caption, see you next season. If water hides what's below and corn hides who's beside you, the place that shook me most was supposed to be safe. Water can hide what's below. Corn can hide who's beside you. But the place that unnerves me most was supposed to be safe. If you've ever stayed in a beach rental, you need to hear this, because the off-season isn't empty. Silence moves in and learns you. Things collect. I kept keys, went in alone, and met the guest who never booked, watched us leave, and waited for summer to end. The island changes when the last checkout pulls away. Rental flags come down. Pools film over like eyes. Gulls scream at empty boardwalks. I took the causeway with salt in my teeth and keys tapping my knee. Last walk through. Blue house on Pilchard Lane. I told myself it was routine. If water hides what's below and corn hides who's beside you, empty rooms hide who knows your schedule. I let myself in at 4. The air hit wrong, 2 degrees colder than our end-of-season setting. We leave every place at 76. The thermostat glowed 74. The living room looked perfect, off in person. Towel was rehung flawlessly and still wet. I checked the washer. Empty. Cutlery drawer sang when I opened it and came up 1 fork short. Tiny things, nothing to call in, but they stacked like cards. Behind the couch, a neat ridge of sifted sand ran the length of the baseboard, like someone dragged a dustpan lip and then reset the furniture on the line. The AC return wore fresh thumbprints. The remotes were stacked straight with the battery door scuffed raw, like it had been opened and put back carefully. I started writing it down so I wouldn't gaslight myself. Damp towel, cold air, 11 forks, sand line. Upstairs, the owner's closet took my master key after a stubborn half-turn. Cedar and sunblock breathed out. Golf clubs, paint cans. On the back wall, the drywall had puckered along the seam where the sloped ceiling met the knee wall. Heat can do that, sure, but the carpet edge showed a darker track like it had been lifted. There were shoe scuffs low, places you'd brace if you were levering something open from the floor. My phone light turned the closet bones into a small white world. I tapped the bubbled section and heard hollow space answer back. Common sense said stop. Habit said fix it. I slipped my multi-tool under loose trim, eased it off, and found a pencil-straight cut line. The panel flexed when I leaned, then popped. Hot, stored summer exhaled from a crawl space that ran the eaves. I went in on elbows, insulation itching my wrists. A cheap duffel hid behind a rafter. Inside, toiletries, a half-used stick of deodorant, fairy stubs folded by date from Memorial Day to yesterday, and a key ring wrapped with labeled tape. One tag said office, our company's name printed in the exact blue we use. The head of the key fit my thumb like a memory. Whoever I'd been missing all summer had been sleeping above my listings, and they had our skeleton access. I followed pinholes along the top plate where the ceiling met the wall. They weren't random. One framed the sofa and coffee table like a private theater. Another looked straight at the back door. Another sighted the stairs. From up there, the house became a dollhouse, and I could feel my own movements replaying under someone's patient eye. My mouth dried out. I slid the panel back, pressed the trim on, and locked the closet like closing a story's high lid. On the porch, I called the police and used my calm office voice. A deputy said 10 minutes. I watched the marsh turn pewter and slapped at mosquitoes. They swept the rooms while I opened the smart lock app. The history showed the last guest checkout, my entry, and a 3:07 a.m. unlock marked offline code. We don't issue offline codes. That's for a network outage and a one-time local authorization. This one appeared out of nowhere as the deputy read over my shoulder and said, "Who else has keys?" "No one who should." They bagged the duffel, logged the stubs, looked under beds and cabinets, attic hatch, nothing. We swapped the smart deadbolt for a mechanical throw and scheduled extra patrols. Kept telling myself solved while my skin said watched. When we stepped outside, the keypad chirped from inside and the deadbolt chunked home. My phone pinged. Manual lock engaged. We were on the stoop. I drove home with the windows up, checked my own door twice, then again listening for breath I couldn't place. At midnight, I opened my mailbox and found a plain envelope with my name in block letters. Inside lay my missing office fob, the one I'd lost in July and filed an incident report for, on its blue lanyard. And a note that smelled faintly of cedar. "Thanks for a great summer. See you soon." Endings look gentle from far away, but up close, they peel back the in-between. The minutes after the whistle, the quiet after a door clicks shut. That's where the real shape of things shows. The lake taught me that silence can answer. The maze taught me that someone can count you without stepping out. The rental taught me empty is a story we tell ourselves to sleep. Maybe you felt it too, that tilt when summer exhales and shadows step closer. Tell me in the comments, have you had an Endovesheimer scare? Which of these stuck under your skin? The whistle in the dark, the soft counting in the corn, or the off-season guest who knew my keys? I read them. They keep me up. If this got under your skin, hit like, subscribe, and share it with the friend who says it's just a vibe. I've got more true stories on the way, because seasons change, but watchers don't. If you hear a whistle at dusk, if a maze feels too easy, or if a rental feels freshly lived in, trust your gut. Some goodbyes aren't mutual. Sleep well. If you can't, at least you'll hear them coming soon.